everybody in here. Today I have a little bit of a guest. We have Luna Loon. Hi Luna. She's so sleepy. She just woke up. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to sleep. Today I come to you guys with my June wrap up. I did not manage to read as many books as I would have liked because I had a goal to read 16 books, but I ended up reading 14, which is still pretty darn good when you work full time. I'm just a little bit disappointed. But today I'm going to tell you guys what I read and what I thought about them, so let's get started. The first book I actually listened to, and that is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by J.K. Rowling, and this was a really short audiobook, and the narrator is actually Newt Scamander himself, or Eddie Redmayne, and he was amazing. I mean, I could listen to his voice like all day, every day, and not only was the narrator amazing, but it also had like this different sound effect. So we had like these explosions, I mean, the sound that the animals made, and it was really great, and it was such a quick listen, and I really loved it, of course, because I love the Harry Potter universe. So I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. And the next book I read was Three Dark Crowns by Kendra Blake. I've heard a lot of things about this book, and it's definitely been going around on BookTube for a while now, and I thought I would pick the book up, and I'd had it on my shelf like, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years, something like that, and I read it, and I read it, and I read it, and I read it some more. It never freaking ended. I mean, this is supposed to be about these triplets, and they all have different powers, and they're separated when they're 6 years old, and then when they turn 16 they have to kill each other, and the one last standing is supposed to become the queen. So we have one girl that is a elemental, one is a poisoner, and one is a naturalist, and the characters were so boring. They had like no personality. The magic part was like not even cool. I was not completely sold on the writing style either. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but I wasn't sold on it. And I did not like the love interests, and there was like the girls, but just they were so dependent on the guys in their life, and I did not like this book, as you may have understood, and it took me forever to read it, and I give this book 1.5 out of 5 star, and that's because the last sentence in the book was really interesting. The last freaking sentence. I wasn't even interested before then. So, you know, this is when I have to learn to put down a book that I'm not enjoying. But like I said, I gave this 1.5 out of 5 stars. And the next book I read was Listen to Your Heart by Casey West. This is a book which release I've been looking forward to for like forever. But in this one we meet Kate, and she is actually kind of socially awkward, and she really has like her really small friend group. But in this book, her friend has actually convinced her to be a part of this podcast course at school. And she's like, alright, it can be like behind the scenes kind of work. But she ends up being one of the hosts. And she now has to give advice on air for people that calls in and asks her stuff. And she's so awkward, and she's so sarcastic, and she's just so funny. And I love the little podcast tidbits in it, and I love the friendships, and I love the love interests, and it was just amazing. And this is definitely one of my favorite Casey West books so far, and I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. And then I also reread My Lady Jane by Cynthia Han, Brody Ashton, and Jodi Meadows. This was actually the first book that I buddy read with my friend Jamie. She's also read it before, so it was a reread for both of us. This is about Lady Jane Grey, and she was an actual real person that was queen for like 9 days, and then she was beheaded. And this is the Lady Janeys, as they call themselves. This is it is their like a new version of what happened. They put some magic in it. Lady Jane does not die after 9 days, obviously, and it's so hilarious, it's so magical, and you cannot stop reading it, and I freaking love it. And I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. And then I listened to Burn for Burn by Siobhan Vivian and Jenny Han, and this is about 3 girls that are supposed to take out revenge on these people that have treated them badly. And in the beginning I could not really tell apart the different voices. I was listening to the audiobook, so I'm still not that good with that anymore yet. But it was a little bit hard to distinguish the different voices, even though the audiobook had different people speaking for each and of them. But it was still hard. And I wasn't really hooked on the story either, even though the premise was what intrigued me to pick it up in the beginning. But it really grew on me, and I started to like the characters more. And it was so fun when they started to get into the entire revenge part of the book. And it definitely left with somewhat of a cliffhanger. So I definitely want to find out what's going to happen in the next 2 books. But yeah, I give this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. We come to another reread for this month. And that was P.S. I Like You by Casey West. It's about Lily, and she really hates chemistry. So she actually takes this note in her notebook. And she actually, instead of taking notes, she writes down song lyrics. But her teacher finds her out, and she's no longer allowed to, have her notebook. So she starts writing song lyrics on her desk instead. And then the next time she has class, she realizes that someone has added to the lyrics. So she's trying to figure out who is the one sending her notes and everything like that. And it's really cute. I love the friendship in the book. I had a little bit more problems with the love interest this time around than the first time I read the book, but I do still really like it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And then I read Always Never Yours by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Barca, and this one is about Megan, and she's had a lot of boyfriends, and every time she breaks up with a guy, he actually ends up with his perfect match right after. And this one, I didn't really like the main character Megan very much. She was kind of annoying, and she's accepted that everybody treated her like crap rather than stand up for herself. And it was, I had some mixed feelings about it, to be honest. But I did like the main love interest in this book. I really liked, and the fact that he helped her grow a lot, and she changed a lot for the better. So that was really good. But some parts I didn't really like, and it took me a lot longer to read it than I thought it would, since it's a contemporary. But I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars. And this was definitely the month for contemporary, because I also read Save the Date by Morgan Matson. So this is about Charlie Grant. She has this huge family, and her mother actually writes this little comic strip about the Grant family, so you get to be a part of that as well. And Charlie's older sister is actually supposed to get married, and this will be the first time in a really long time that all of the siblings will be home for a couple of days. And Charlie's really looking forward to it, and she wants it all to be perfect and just like it used to be. But shit goes down. Everything that can go wrong with a wedding pretty much goes wrong. So it was funny, and it was cute, and something happened all the time. And I really liked the love interest in this one, because he was so cute and adorable and just amazing. And I loved the family dynamics. I mean, they were so funny and childish, and you could definitely tell they were related, even though they were all very different from each other. And I loved it. So I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. And then I also read Dread Nation by Justina Ireland, and this is a book about zombies. Shocking, I know, because I don't really read zombie books. But this one was really, really great. It takes place in the 1880s. The dead is once again walking, and people are getting killed left and right because these zombies are freaking crazy. Still, I mean, slavery has ended because the Civil War is over, but the people that have darker skin are definitely still treated a lot like crap. So the main character, Jane, actually goes to this school called Miss Preston's School of Combat, and there they have to learn how to kill zombies, because apparently white people can't do that. So all of the people with dark skin have to work their asses off and, get killed in the process. So it still definitely has a lot of problems because of that, but it's really eventful. Shit happens all the time, and the main character, Jane, is just pretty much darn cool. And there's a lot of political intrigue in this book as well, and a lot of kick-ass zombie fighting scenes. So I give this book 4 out of 5 stars. And I read book 2 in a series, and that was The Scrivener's Bones by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 2 in Alcatraz vs. the Evil Librarians, and this one is just amazeballs. This series is so freaking good. Like, honestly, it's ridiculous. But this is a middle grade series, and we meet Alcatraz, and when he turns 13, he actually inherits this bag of sand from his parents who are dead, so he's living with foster parents. And then the day after, this man comes to his house and tells Alcatraz that he is his grandfather, and then shit goes down. So the Smedry people, which is actually Alcatraz's last name, they're called Smedry. Everybody in his family has these talents, as they call them, and they're really, really weird. So Alcatraz can actually break pretty much anything, and it's so weird and so freaking awesome, and it just works, and I freaking love it. And I give this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. And then I read the third and final part of the series, and that was Hinsides Väktare by Albin Alvtegen and Karin Alvtegen. This is actually a review book that I got from Brombergs Förlag, and this book is about Linnea and Linus, and they are twins. And their mom actually see this ad in the paper where you are allowed to live in this house in the country in exchange for the person making some work on the house. And Linnea is actually in a wheelchair. She was born with this brain damage, so Linus has always felt kind of bad about it. Why her, why not me, and everything like that. But Linus actually happens to come upon this, other world where Linnea is actually Leonora, and they get to hang out and get to know each other, and it's magic and it's weird ass creatures, and shit goes down. And this is the final book in the series. I really liked it. It's very different and it's very entertaining. And I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. Now we come to the second review book I read this month, and that is Drakviskaren by Lovisa Wistrand. This is a hunk of a book. In the beginning, I listened to the audiobook. I did not connect with it at all, so that didn't work for me, so I started reading the physical book instead. This is about Iselda. She's an elf, and her folks were killed off, and she wants revenge, and she's really kick-ass. But in this world, women are not allowed to use weapons, but they have these powers instead, and vice versa. But I mean, there's dragons in it too, and there were some really cool kick-ass parts and everything like that. But the love interest in this book, I really did not like the love interest or their story at all, and I found it really kind of problematic, and I didn't like it, and I just and that really took away the fun of this book a little bit for me. But I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars. We only have 2 books left to talk about. So we have The Knights of Crystalia, and this is actually book 3 in Alcatraz vs. the Evil Librarians. Yes, I could not, stop myself from reading the third book so quickly. But this one, we meet new characters. We get to be in the world where actually Alcatraz was born, and it's so funny. Alcatraz, it's so sarcastic. The people that live in this land, they call the real world called the Hushlands, where we normal people live. They don't understand some of the things that we do, so there's some really weird twists on it, and it's so funny, and Alcatraz is hilarious, and we get more weird ass talents that nobody understands, but they're so funny. And I love this series so much, so I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. And then the last book I read that I actually finished, the last day of June, and that was An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I've actually had this book lying around for 2 years or something, and I finally freaking read it, and I'm so happy that I did. In this one, we meet Laya, and her brother was actually captured because they thought he committed treason. So he's in prison, and she wants to get him out, of course, because he is her last living relative. To be able to get help from the rebels, she actually has to infiltrate this commandant's house, and she has to go in there pretending to be a slave. This book is so brutal, but it's so freaking good. Like, I mean, it's impossible to put down when you finally start reading it. I just flew through it, and I loved the characters, and I loved everything that happened, but it's so brutal. And holy shit, I need to read book 2, and thank God I've ordered it, so it's on its way, but it will take a couple of days before I have it in my hands. And I cannot believe I waited so long before reading this book, because it was amazing. And I definitely understand the hype for this book. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, those were all of the 14 books I read this month. If you've read any of the books I mentioned, please let me know down in the comments what you thought about them, without spoiling of course. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to give me some thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel by clicking the little button down below. And yeah, I hope we see each other next time. Bye!